Hi everyone, here we are again for another Hatton's Model Railway SkillsCast, where I give you some of the skills and knowledge to really individualise your model railway. Today, I thought we'd take a closer look at one of the most important parts of any layout. We're having a look at the actual track that runs on your layout. Some of you may think it's quite obvious, some of you may already know quite a lot of what I'm going to discuss today, but this really is for the beginners who may have one or two locomotives in their collection, may have started off with a brand new train set and really aren't quite sure where to go with the next steps of putting further track into their layout. So I'll be covering some of the basic details, the different types and pieces that you can get, how they all fit together, how it's best to fit them together, and some of the options where you can build even further with some of the more complex pieces that you can get out there too. So if you've got any questions, please do add them in the chat and I'll answer them throughout the stream. Otherwise, I'll give you a bit of an overview as to just what you can get in 00 gauge and how you can start with a train set and build up a real representation of a real life railway. So we're going to start with our set track pieces. I've got one here already, and this is known as the Hornby double straight. You'll also get these from a variety of other suppliers such as Pico and Bachmann. And the beauty of the set track pieces is they are all the same geometry as well. They're exactly the same size. So you can use all the different pieces interchangeably with each other. There's about 20 of these set track pieces in total, giving quite a few variations in the pieces, mainly set straights and curves and some basic point work. These are ideal if you are starting with a brand new set. And if you are setting up or adding to a set, with them being all the same length, they do slot in to each other very easily. Now, if you've never put two pieces of track before together, you'll see the little rail joiners on the end there with the little groove. These carry the metal connection through, and you'll just see there that these are really easy to slide together. Just make sure they're connected. And that's how your track goes together, with the rail joiners connecting the two track pieces, as you see there. While I've got it in close-up, I'll tell you a little bit about what we are looking at as well. You've got the plastic sleepers there, representing the real-life sleepers, and the rail chairs, which hold the rails in real life. The actual rail itself is made from a material called nickel silver. It was made from steel for quite a few years, but as I'm sure a lot of you all know, steel does rust quite easily. So steel was not really been around now in model railway track for quite a few years. It is mainly this nickel silver, which is a lot better and a lot more durable. So we've started with our set track pieces. If we're looking slightly to our right here, you'll see I have got some of the curves here that you can get. Now there are 4 radiuses of set track curve. And you'll see here each one gets slightly larger as they go. And Chris, this is hopefully the ideal video for you. You'll hopefully gain some great tips from this. And this is one to really take notice of. Now, the reason we have different sets of the radiuses, I'll just bring them into shot for you a little bit more, is so you can run 2 lines next to each other or more on a curve. And then, as you'll see here, you'll have them sort of a set distance apart. And then we can bring in our 3rd radius. The numbers go from smallest with the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then there is a 4th one too, which I don't have an example to hand of. And that allows you to run trains next to each other as you would on a real life railway, but having the overhang there so the trains don't actually hit each other when going round the curve. So, what's the best radius to have? That's the question I always get asked, is which is the best one to go for? Surely, if you're using the smallest one, you can fit more on your layout. You can really squeeze in those tight curves. I think you've already heard the slight issue there, guys. Tight curves. A lot of the larger locomotives do not like the 1st radius track. You'll see on our website and on a lot of recommendations that we do recommend the 2nd radius as the smallest for a lot of locomotives out there. A small amount do actually require the 3rd radius as well. But as a general rule, if you can have something a little bit wider, always go for the wider radiuses when possible. If you are only using small locomotives and small wagons, you may find that they're okay on the first radius, but we do recommend second wherever you can use it. If you have a quick look on our website as well, we have a full track guide to the set track pieces. You'll see there the lengths of the individual straight pieces that are available. There's 4 distinct types. We've also given you the various codes for the equivalent versions in the Pico, Hornby and Bachmann ranges. As I mentioned before, they are all exactly the same sizes and the same geometry, so you can interchange them should you wish. Towards the bottom there, you can see the different geometry of the radius curves. You can see how many pieces you'll need to make a circle. And actually what we recommend if you are fitting in half a circle onto your boards. So that's the real start of the set track pieces, as you see there. They all click together in exactly the same way. I'll just do that again for you one more time, just to show you. This is exactly how all our pieces fit together today. Just sliding in as per so, and then they're joined together. Really, really easy to put together those. One of the most important set track pieces is also the power joiner, and these do vary between different suppliers. This is Hornby's R8206, and you put your power leads in the 2 joins at the back, and that will then give you the electrical connection you require to operate your trains. And that will fully work for you from there. So a couple of you are already asking about points. A couple of ideas and suggestions there too. So let's take a look at those points in that case. I'll just bring you back to the main camera. I've got a couple of varieties here, as we'll start with the set track points. So we'll get these out. There are a couple of different variations, but I've got one each of the right hand and the left hand. And with these, they're ideal for starters, again, for your first train set or similar, as they do join together in exactly the same way. But the easiest way to change the tracks is just firmly press on the little lever, and that does change the tracks. You can fit these with a point motor should you wish. You can electrify them. You can amend them for your layout. Now, these points are what they call isolating points. So at the moment, the electricity and the power will run the way the points is set. So you can see there, that will run straight down our line here. If I change the point that way, the power will isolate to this track. So you'll have no power in there and your train won't run if it's on that part of the layout. If you're a digital user, you can buy the electro point clips to make both sides completely electrically live. You can use those on a standard layout too, but we would recommend just bearing in mind that if you do have those sections open, it will mean that trains on both sides of the layout will run with your same controller. So you may have some unnecessary crashes there. So maybe worth avoiding. Ian, if you're asking regarding the Flexi track, it is something I've got a couple of pieces in front of me here, and I'll be covering that a little further on in the stream. We'll just stick with the set track for a moment, and then we'll move on to the Streamline pieces. And a great tip from Stephen there as well. I'll just show you exactly what he means there. When you are joining the pieces together, this is a fantastic tip from Stephen. That's one of the best I've seen for a while. I'll just put that on. If you're just joining those together, as you can see here, to make sure it's absolutely level, just run your finger along the top and you'll feel there that that is completely smooth and level, and you've got a perfect join. You can join them on in place too, but it's a lot easier to lift them up and slot them in as we did. So thank you very much for that, Stephen. Great tip there. And of course, some other great tips coming through in the chat from you too. So let's head over to that Streamline now. We've got a couple of requests coming through for it. And this is great if you're moving on from your initial train set now. It's all compatible. You can use the set track with the Streamline. So If you've already got some set track pieces and you're really looking at making your layout a bit more complex, maybe a model of a real location out there, it is a good time to look at some of the Streamline. This is a yard length of the SL100 Streamline track. Again, you can get flexible track from quite a few different suppliers, and as long as it's marketed as code 100, it is all compatible. I'll come back to the mention of that code for it in a little sec. Just remember that for now. But for right now, the bonus with the flexible track is it's flexible. So we've done away with our set track curves. We're no longer limited to the 4 different radiuses. We can have any style of curve we want. Should that be smooth? Should that be a really nice high-speed gradual curve? Should that be a really tight curve for a dockyard or maybe a tramway? You can make that as tight or as smooth as you wish. What you will see when we do make it slightly tighter and smoother is, and I'll just show you on the close-up camera, you can see the end of the rails there do become mismatched as we bend it. And all you'll need to do is just cut those rails down with a suitable pair of track cutters once you've got that into place. So you can see there that they're just flexing as we bend a rail. So always make sure if you are laying some set track, cut it a little bit short, maybe just about an inch from the end. Or if you're feeling like it, you can cut it straight there. As long as it's pinned down and durable, it will have absolutely no issues staying in place. So I hope that's helped you out there, Jackie, with some of the tips regarding the SL100. But do bear in mind, there's a lot more to it than this. And if you've got any more questions, please do put them in the chat and I'll see if I can answer them throughout the stream. So that's not only the different part of Streamline track. You may have noticed here, I've already got a wide variety of different points which are available in Pico's Streamline range. I believe there's about 25 or 30 in total. And this really gives you the opportunity to replicate that real life railway with either small, medium or large points, even more variations than that. We have some quite complex track work here, such as the double slip, which allows both a crossover and 2 sets of points in one. And this is really ideal if you're recreating a real life railway with some pretty complex track work, as we can see here at Clapham Junction. We start looking then at curved points, points coming off. We've even got some extra sections of rail, including electrical third rail on there. And this is where Streamline really comes into its own. It gives you some great opportunities to really replicate those real life layouts that are out there. You're no longer restricted to your set track pieces, although these do have their place on a fully detailed layout too. They're ideal for train sets, but because they are quite cost effective, you can use them on a fully detailed layout should you wish. And that brings us back to those codes. As we mentioned before, we made a brief mention of code 100 earlier in the chat. Now, the code actually refers to the size of the rail. So if we have a look again at our closer camera, all this track that I have here right now is code 100. This is the standard that you get with most layouts, most train sets, and that actually refers to the size and thickness of the nickel silver rail that we have within our sleepers. This is actually a little bit larger than real life. It's actually made based on more original designs of model railway track, so locomotives and older models won't have any issues if they have larger wheels. So they won't have any issues running on your code 100 track, as won't a lot of new locomotives. However, again, we take a little bit of a look at Streamline for a second, where you can see a lot of the pieces I have here refer to the code 85. Sorry, the code 75, I do apologize. You'll just see that there on the packet. And this is a lot finer rail. If we put the two together there, you'll just about see the slight difference. It is a lot better to see in person, I promise. But you'll see the slight difference in the thickness of the rail. It is a lot of a finer rail. And as you can guess, that gives rise to the name fine scale and where fine scale track comes from. So if you really do want to go for a layout that's more in keeping with the real thing, you can use the code 75 track. Now, a couple of quick things to bear in mind if you're going down the route of code 75 track is that you don't have the ability to use the set track alongside it. Set track is only available in code 100. You can buy adapter pieces. Pico do make them, so you can join the code 100 and code 75 track work together. And also bear in mind that on the code 75, all the locomotives with larger wheels and the larger wheel flanges that are on there might just have a couple of issues running through some of the points as well. So if you've got a brand new fleet of modern model locomotives, you shouldn't have any issues with code 75, especially if you really want to go down the realism route. But from visual standpoint, there isn't really a lot in it either. You can see here the difference in the code 100 and the code 75, and both still look to me like ideal pieces of point work used on a railway in real life. Maybe a little bit tighter, but that is point of the set track. If you do want the larger pieces, you are looking at the Streamline as we see here. So one last little thing I thought I'd cover for you today, and again, it's a question I get asked quite a lot when I'm out at shows or if I'm helping out our products team, is the difference between what we call Insole and Electrofrog. Now, this really is if you're heading down the Streamline route, so it's more of the technical end, shall we say. But if we look at our point here, I'll just again bring that up for you, and we can see the actual connection here. This is called the frog, where the lines split, and you'll see just a tiny little bit of isolating plastic there. If that wasn't in place, you'd have issues with either locomotives electrically shorting the circuit when they come into contact with both sides, or as you can see here, this will come right down and you get a short circuit from both lines joining up. So you do have your different pieces there between the fully insulated frog that we can see right here. And if I have one to hand, which I think I do, I'll just get this one out for you. I have one of Pico's Electrofrog points. So you can see there the difference where you've got the isolating plastic section and a very, very small isolating plastic section on the Electrofrog here. I'll just hold that up for you so you can see the real difference there in the two sections. As you can see. So the reason you may be thinking now is, so what? How does that impact me? What's the main difference there, shall we say? So if you're looking again at the Electrofrog point, you'll see that more of the frog is electrically alive. If I've put them together there for you, you've got a huge section here which is plastic and a very, very small section which is plastic on the Electrofrog. Now, if you've got a locomotive with a very small wheelbase, or you want to make sure your electrical pickups are as useful as possible, the Electrofrog is a better point for you to go for. As there, where that plastic is, you won't get any electrical connectivity. But there's less chance of shorting out on the Insole frog, so that's why the set track pieces are made of that type. But both of them have their own advantages. Both of them have their differences. So do take a look. Again, we've got that section on our website there that you can see right now. We've got a track guide which covers a lot of the set track pieces and some of the basic information regarding Insole frog and Electrofrog. If you take a look on there too, Kingori, the dimensions of the curve points are on there. They're not quite the same as fourth radius, but they are pretty close. So if you wanted to use a little bit of Flexi track to really level that out, you certainly can do. And a top tip as well, you can have a look on Pico's own website as they do print out versions of these points, so you can in effect try them before you buy them as well and make sure that the Streamline points do fit exactly where you want them on your layout. If you head over to the technical part of Pico's website, they're all there for you to download. And of course, for the set track pieces, as we mentioned, they slot together very easily, and we've got a full guide to those on our website. So I hope that's answered some of the questions you have. There is a little bit more to track, as I'm sure you can imagine. There's different scales in there. It covers N gauge, O gauge, all the track gauges you can imagine. There are different sleeper types too. There's a lot of Code 100 concrete sleeper pieces for more modern railways. They've also recently brought out bullhead track pieces, which goes back towards the Victorian and Edwardian track work that you see out there. So you can build up quite a variety of different pieces. Moving on from the starter pieces, as we saw with our set track, towards the start of the stream, to really build up a more, shall we say, in-depth layout when you have a look towards the Streamline pieces. But you can use them together as long as they're the same code. There doesn't need to be a favorite. You don't need to choose a favorite manufacturer. As long as they are Code 100, all the different manufacturers' pieces will work together, and the set track and the Streamline too. So if you have some spare pieces of track and you're wondering if they go together, that's no issues at all, as long as they match in the code. So I hope I've answered some of your starter questions towards laying track. As you can imagine, there's a huge amount more to cover here in tips on how to lay your track, how to wire it up, how to get your best maintenance on it too. And we will be covering more of that in future streams. We'll be looking at how top tips and skills casts come into that too. But this really is for you beginners out there who may have been a bit intimidated and maybe overwhelmed by the sheer amount of track that is available out there. You might have found some pieces, or you may have got a brand new starter set, as I believe one of you did towards the start of the stream, and just not quite sure what you've got in that pack. So hopefully I've answered some of your questions and inspired you to pick up a few more track pieces and start building your first model railway. Really get some imagination going there and have a look at some of the pieces available if you want to replicate a real place or let your imagination run wild. I've put a link in the description for you, as always, to the track guide that I've referenced throughout the video. I'll just give you one more look at that again, but it is available on our website. You'll also see some of our track plan books on there. These are absolutely fantastic for either the set track or the Streamline pieces, and they can give you some inspiration, and they also give you some really handy guides on pretty much everything I've talked about on how to put them together and wire them up. All the track you see here right now, and even more besides, is available right now to buy on our website, as well as track for other scales and a huge amount of accessories to wire up your track and keep it absolutely spick and span. So hopefully you've enjoyed this session. If you want to see more of these skills casts, do let us know what topics you'd like us to cover, and we'll certainly plan those in the future. I don't think it'll be our last one on track somehow. This really is just the start, and there's a lot more top tips we can do there. Some of you are already putting some suggestions in the chat that I will have a look over after the stream. Do check out that link in the description for more information. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page for more videos like this, including these SkillsCast sessions, model railway overviews, real-life locomotive profiles, and even more. So check those out now. Make sure to keep an eye on both of those channels for more information. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.